Welcome back, everyone. We're back for another live show. It's our second midday Saturday live stream in a week. There we go. Don't know why I seem to be very free this time of day. Yeah, look, I wanted to let me adjust the mic because this might be a bit poppy. So hopefully that's okay. Let me know if the audio is all right. I wanted to go into what Mikel Arteta said in the press conference yesterday. I thought there were a lot of interesting quotes that did the rounds on social media, and I wanted to dissect them because the interpretation from some was that maybe Arteta's kind of calling for help from above. The interpretation from others was that he was perhaps at times sort of dodging the actual kind of fears around, the squad and the lack of goals and stuff. So I wanted to just sort of look through it, pass comment on quite a bit of it. Obviously, he had a lot of criticism for being asked about the ball, for example, in the week. And, could he have dealt with that better, said something else, whatever. Basically his press conferences are being dissected like never before, and they're going to be in a January transfer window. Probably not like never before. I mean, we used to really dissect what we had to say back when we were fully in the mud, like 4 or 5 years ago. But I want to explore this. Was he kind of firing shots? Was he calling for help in the transfer window? Or was he just simply passing comment on the reality of the situation? And that's it. It was his opinion on it. But there's also times when I sort of read through the press conference. I read it and then I also watched it. There's also times where it feels like he's pouring cold water on stuff and basically saying, like, look, don't expect too much because ultimately the job for me is to improve what we've got. So we'll try to dissect a little bit of all that, talk about some of the things that he said, and we'll get straight into it. We'll cut through and go straight to some of the main bits. You're going to have to forgive me because we're jumping around sort of the questions and the script, and we've got it all here. Reason being because quite frankly, these questions sort of came in different waves. I also thought Charles Watts asked a really good question. And this is what's funny because, you go through the website here and you scroll through and, this is how the questions are posed on whether he would like a versatile forward, on the focus of his squad building, but they often never put the full question in. Well, they don't put the full question in. And Charles Watts actually asked a really good question. And I didn't really love Mikel Arteta's reply, but I love the way Charles Watts kind of framed it to him, almost kind of putting a little bit more pressure on him to go, look, you like the stats and the data. Let me show you that the stats and the data don't really back up what you're saying about a kind of small sample size of Arsenal not being at their very best in front of goal. But we're going to go into that. I'm jumping around a little bit. First, I want to welcome you all to the stream and got to welcome my guy Turkish. Where is he? There we go. And I hear you. He said, I don't agree with this angle, but we'll watch to see if I can be swayed. Just don't believe you go from best owners to subliminals in 4 months. Yeah, and you know what? That's it. And actually, when you watch the press conference, Arteta's not saying anything in a bullish way. It's just a question of whether maybe certain things he said on purpose to try set a tone. And there are certain quotes and comments that are definitely like, Arteta's kind of saying that he's not particularly happy with what they've done, for example, to strengthen the attack. But again, we'll go through it all, and I've got to back this as well. Big thanks, Turkish, saying like the video, make sure you're subscribed, everyone, and please do that if you like this kind of content. If you like sort of Arsenal news, we did a video yesterday catching up on all the transfer news that's been doing the rounds. It's a quick 11-minute sort of debrief of everything that's been going on social media. It's been said in reports or whatever. Go check that out as well. Lots of love for Turkish in the comments, of course, always going to be. Big up everyone, says Ryan. He also says, don't be late, Turkish, just watch out. 30 seconds, I did okay. I mean, and some people will come with this angle that Arteta doesn't deserve more money. And yeah, I kind of hear that too. Marmoush heading to City. And look, the Marmoush thing is a example that there is kind of work to be done in the forward line, that we can do it. I mean, the video I put out yesterday only confirms that more. But also, I think, haven't they just signed who did they sign, Man City? Literally today. Let me see if I can find it. Fabrizio Romano. I think they literally just confirmed the signing of a defender, maybe. Yeah. Lon centre back. Abdulkadir Kusanov is on his way. 20-year-old centre back. There we go. So that's 2 players. It looks like that they are on the brink of bringing in. One of them pretty much done. Live on a Saturday. Here we are. Turkish, good to see you, man. Vlahovic for £25 million plus Kivior or Zinchenko. That sounds like a very good deal for us. City have been serious in this window. That is the reality of it. They have, and it puts us to shame a little bit. We know what they've got going on behind the scenes and away from, the actual football on the pitch. But they're, we'll say like over the years they've sold very well. But there's nothing to suggest that we're not in a financial position to do the things we want to do. So is it indecisiveness? Is it not agreeing on players? Or are we just not as capable in the market? Listen, I don't know. But anyway, let's go through it. And I will be referring to my notes every now and again just to double check and make sure I get the exact quotes. But this is the one I wanted to start with. And we've got it here. So on whether he would like a versatile forward, he said in the front positions, compared to what other clubs have done, the expenditure that we have there, we are very far from it over the years for different reasons. Firstly, that we have already very good players and we have many necessities in the squad to achieve in that period. But it's this here. Compared to what other clubs have done and the expenditure that we have there, we are very far from it over the years for different reasons. Sort of elaborates a little bit on those different reasons, I think, in another comment, which I'll get to. And by the way, guys, I'm just going to move the comments away from my eyesight just because I will get distracted and look over. So let me go through this. And then, of course, we'll dissect it all with you guys and your comments. So compared to what other clubs have done, the expenditure and the expenditure that we have there, we are very far from it. I like I said, I wanted to watch to see how he actually delivered a lot of these lines. Now, I think we've seen Arteta deliver things in a slightly bullish way before, and I don't think that's what this was. I think this was him. I think just being honest, like we can all see the figures. We know how much players cost. We know that Havertz came in as £65 million midfielder. However you want to dress it up now as he's a forward, and even if you add him as a forward expenditure, the numbers are still quite low in terms of the investment there compared to other areas of the pitch. Is this a message he's sending out? I'm not sure. I think it sounds more like a justification. I think it sounds more like well, of course, that area of the pitch, there's more that needs to be done because we haven't done it. We haven't spent that money over the years for different reasons. First, that we have already very good players, and this is, I think, what changed it. First, that we have already very good players. We have many necessities in the squad to achieve in that period. He said that there were other areas that they needed to address fully. You wonder whether 6 left backs in the squad was the desired outcome, but okay. Firstly, we have already very good players. This, look, is a difficult one. This, you could say, come on, Mikel, like, are you really trying to suggest that, the forward line didn't need improving over the last 5-6 years? Or is this just him backing the players he's got? Ultimately, he needs them to fire from him literally this weekend. And in January, till we do add a player, if we do. So you could argue that's just him trying to inject that sort of positivity. He's got to speak in a tone in a way that's going to kind of get the best out of his players as well. Let's reflect on when he arrived. When he arrived, he had Lacazette, who's a £50 million striker, who wasn't, when he got there, Lacazette wasn't a bad player. Lacazette, I think only the season before was our player of the season. I think as Arteta arrived, we were 6 months off, Lacazette being our, player of the season under Unai Emery. You got Aubameyang, who, of course, for that first year was absolutely firing goals under Mikel Arteta. You had Pepe, who was a £72 million signing. So I can understand why when he arrived, that wasn't the problem position. Then you have Smith Rowe and Saka developing. Cool. But we're talking the last 2 years, really. So I could understand why, this line, we have many necessities in the squad to achieve in that period. I can understand why when he first arrived, it wasn't an absolute, necessity then. Erdegaard comes in on loan, so you've added a bit of creativity. Okay, I can kind of forgive it for the first year or two. But, we're long from that now. The defense has been in really good shape for sure 2.5 years at least, since Saliba basically came in and we were shoving White to right back because that's how good our centre back options were. I'm not too forgiving on that front. So with every comment we're going to read, we're going to apply this question that I've applied, that I've put in the heading. Is Arteta calling for signings? I don't know this one. I don't think it's him calling for signings. I think it's as much him just giving us the reality of how he sees it. I don't know if it's like a cry for help to the Cronkies. Now, let me go to this next one, but give me a second while I find it. Yes, it will be because we have. Okay, so let me find the exact. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's right below. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Okay, fine. We've got this. Can you all see this? Yeah, you can. So on the focus, oh god. So he's then asked on the focus of his squad building shifting from defence. Oh, let me get rid of that. Right, there we go. On the focus of his squad building shifting from defence, because of course that's where a lot of the money's been spent, as we've talked about. Yes, it will, because we have certain limitations, and we have. Yes, it will, because we have certain limitations, and we have a lot of gaps and a lot of things to cover to become the team that we want, and then the ability of those players. Can you afford them? Even if you want to, sometimes it's not been possible. Of the two quotes I've read so far, this is the one that feels more to me like a let me send a message to either the fans or the people above or the transfer committee, whoever, that we are not where we want to be in terms of, how much of the squad we've addressed, the players we've got. He has regularly spoken, Mikel Arteta, about having one of the smallest squads in the league. He said that very recently. I think he said it back in the summer. And that for me is maybe not shots fired, but it's definitely him saying, "Come on, I need some players." He often references that, and I think if that was by design, if that's what he wanted, he'd simply not mention it. He'd go, "Yeah, but if we have too many bodies, then players don't play, and that can cause other problems. And I'd rather have 20 quality players than 25 with players I'm not happy with." I think if he wanted to say all those things, he could, but he regularly goes to the line of, we have one of the smallest squads in the league. We have one of the smallest squads available, and yeah, it's a line he dishes out quite a lot. If you're dissecting this word for word, again, I listened to it live. I didn't feel it was particularly bullish or anything, but the words I think are a bit more telling. Yes, it will, because we have certain limitations. Let me read it again. On the focus of his squad building shifting from defence. Yes, it will. So it'll shift from defence because we have certain limitations. We have a lot of gaps and a lot of things to cover to become the team that we want. He's saying there's a lot of work to do still to be where we want to be. Now fans can blame him. £700 million spent. It shouldn't have gone 40 million on Calafiori. It should have gone somewhere else. You shouldn't have signed Marino for 30. You should have kept a Smith Rowe and then gone and got a forward. Like, for sure, we can ask what his position is in all this and what responsibility he takes on for the squad not being where he wants after 5 full years, after £700 million spent. I mean, those are totally fair questions. But I'm telling you that these are the words he's saying in the way he sees it. That we have gaps and a lot of things to cover to become the team that we want to be. Can you afford them? Even if you want to, sometimes it's not been possible. What does he mean by that? Is he saying that we have financial restrictions? Is he saying that, is he saying that players haven't wanted to come? Is he saying that we've had the money, but we've not done well enough in the window? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I do think these comments don't read to me as someone who's particularly happy. And I don't think, and he's obviously talked about the process and fans talk and debate about the process and all that. I'm sure even in his process, he never envisaged that fifth or sixth full season, we would still be talking about having a lot of gaps and a lot of things to cover. So that strikes me as him being more disappointed with the situation of the investment in the front line and kind of the state of the squad a little bit there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll go through them all. But there was one more thing I wanted to go through. Let's find it here. I'm on the wrong tab. Because this is the kind of thing you typically get from Arteta. Oh, why did I type that? Sorry, give me one sec. Not January window. So on the profile. Right. Now this feels a lot more Mikel Arteta. First of all, so yeah, on the profile of player he looks for recruited in the January window. First of all, someone that can impact the team, bring in bodies doesn't help us at all. It's just about somebody who can immediately impact our performance and bring something that we don't have. To find that in this market is very difficult to achieve. When you hear that, that's not shots fired. That's him trying to manage expectation. That's him trying to be honest about what January is like through his eyes, or is trying to just, relax everyone and go, listen, don't expect too much because it's very, very difficult. This feels much more like a measuring of people's expectations a little bit, and trying to read it in a touch. Yeah, and that's the kind of line that we've heard from Arsenal managers over the years. It's a very difficult window to do business. We only want to bring someone who's going to, impact us immediately. We're not looking just to bring bodies in and all that. Thing is, when you look at the injuries to Waneri and Saka, I mean, it kind of is becoming a little bit of a case of bringing bodies in. But I get it. We don't want any more Raheem Sterling signings. I totally understand. Although, you still look at that. Who sanctioned that one? Who made that happen? The little that Mikel Arteta is using him does make you ask that question. Although there you go, Mikel said, and this is why I think actually the Sterling signing is a really good reason of why we should sometimes pick holes in what Arteta says and try and almost read a little bit too deeply, because I think 5 days before we signed Sterling, he basically said, no, I won't, we won't be signing him. I enjoyed working with him, but that's not a deal, whatever. Then when we do sign him, he said, I picked up the phone to him and I heard him speak, and I knew, he was ready. We had to bring him in or whatever. But then Edu said on the day we signed him, he was like, look, let me be honest, we didn't plan to sign him. And you're going, well, this is all just very messy then, isn't it? Because you are getting a lot of, contradicting comments from two of the main people involved in transfers. So yeah, let me put that aside for a sec. There are other comments I want to go through and other quotes, and I'll try find them. But let's go through what you guys are saying. I'm getting a call. Okay, well, I've hung up that call now. Let's put that down. Okay, let's go through your comments. We're going to scroll all the way back. Sorry, this is why I should read the comments live, Namo, because you said I totally agree, and I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not sure which bit that was about. My bad. Unless he's agreeing with this. Aegon, good name. The more I look at it, the more Turkish is spot on about Teta being another cronky puppet, which is so sad to stomach. Thank you for the super chats. We'll be going through them super soon. There's a little bit of that, company man, people are saying, throwing that kind of thing out. Brent says, yo, why didn't Arteta sign a striker instead of multiple keepers? And this is what I said earlier. He can talk about those other areas not being addressed. He can talk about the gaps in the squad and how much needs to be done. But he spent 30 million on Ramsdale and then 30 million on Raya. I mean, and you can get things wrong. Ramsdale could have been what we needed to get top four, and Raya can be what you need to transfer the title. That's okay. But there'll definitely be questions. So look, you're allowed to get business wrong. You're allowed to get the odd wrong sign. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, City get lots of signings wrong. But it's more the heavy focus on certain areas of the team, not that you've got it wrong, that so much money has been spent on certain areas, and so little on the forward line. Guys, can we show some love for Max? Because the work he does for this channel, let me not even say, he is sensational. Absolutely sensational. Does terrific work. The channel looks how it looks because of him. He's an absolute genius. And he brings the videos to life. We put out a video yesterday. It's had a lot of love and support. Thank you all. It was a video going through all the latest transfer news. Check it out after this live stream if you're interested. But love to Max, who does some work with other people like Turkish and Big Six and people. So yeah, show him some love. Yeah, but I mean, Chelsea just did something on another scale. This is coming from AMD. Chelsea literally spent almost double in half the time. They did something I've never seen ever in terms of spending. And look, it's yielding a good squad, but you'd expect that for the money spent, right? What else are you all saying? Because I really want to get into in a bit what Charles Watts said. And the answer we got from Mikel Arteta is the kind of counter to the question I'm asking, which is, when you hear the response he gave to Charles Watts, you start to go, maybe he doesn't think, maybe he's not calling for signings, maybe he's not, firing shots in any particular way. But that was the kind of debate that was going on online. There was a lot of people kind of saying, it feels like a cry for help from Mikel. He's sending the message above. He's hearing what fans are saying about the lack of investment in the attack, and he's trying to make it clear that that's maybe not necessarily on him. Yeah. There's other comments in this press conference that make me think that's not what he's doing. There's no point getting rid of Arteta when the Cronkies are in charge. I think you're basically saying that ultimately anyone else would have the same problems. Okay. James Bond, don't tell me this. James, Saka's out for the season, right? Let that sink in. I think if we were to sign a forward, I think they would ultimately give Saka has much time to recover and not rush him. The word is bullshit, but contradicting works. So, what's actually talking about here, people, is what he's saying is when I was talking about the different comments that came out about Raheem Sterling from the two different comments from Arteta and then Edu, I was saying, what's the word to describe the disparity in what they're both saying? And he said the word's bullshit, but contradicting works. Yeah, I'll go with contradicting. But it was majorly contradicting. Someone signed. I don't think we should really just brush this aside. I mean, I know that Chelsea have picked up a lot of his, salary. I know that, I was calling for a forward. And listen, back in August, I would have said, yes, just give us Raheem Sterling because it's better than having nothing. So that time we needed numbers. But something happened with that deal where it was signed off and someone didn't want it, whether it was Edu, whether it was Arteta, someone, because he's been played so little. And the comments, there's just enough quotes to tell you that this was not one that they were all in favour of. And one of the things Arsenal have done well over the years, whether we think they've underinvested in the forward or whatever, they have, largely been aligned with longer term targets and not done business like in the January window of 2022 when Aubameyang left. They ultimately didn't do business because they were like, no, we're not going to do business that doesn't make sense for us, that isn't long term. We're not going to bring bodies in for the sake of it. And Raheem Sterling feels like that's exactly what they did. They brought in bodies for the sake of it. Maybe Arteta wanted, in the end, decided, well, I'll see him in training. If he's not it, at least we're not paying a lot of his wages. And maybe that is fairly sensible. You may as well, if you can have the player, why not? And you can have a little look. But clearly, not everyone agreed on that one. Hey, DR Sports in the comments. Guys, go watch DR Sports. Always putting out some fantastic content. Although I'd love to know who's actually in charge of that comment right there. Anyway. Good to see you showing some love for Max. Thank you, Max and James. Always love the lives. Thank you, DJ064. All right, let's go through your super chats. Let me go through your super chats, and then we'll go into what Charles Watts asked. So, AMD, Chelsea have spent almost double in almost half the time. We have owners that don't invest funds. They're worse than the Glazers and FSG. Jay says, sorry, okay, let me wrap to that for a sec. Look, whatever good work Arsenal have done in the last 5 years, of course, the Cronkies are part of that good work. But whatever we haven't done, they're also a part of that. And the question is, has the work been done to get us into a position that, okay, now it feels like, well, certainly the last 2 seasons felt like we could compete. And that's all you can ask of the team. Be at a level where you're doing everything you can to compete and be competitive and be in that conversation for the major honours. We have no right to win these things, but we should be competitive and doing what we can to win those things. So the question is, did we get to a level of competitiveness and then put the handbrake on and then decide, did the Cronkies decide that that's as far as we're willing to go? And that would be majorly disappointing if it is. And if that isn't aligning with our ambition or if it's a financial thing, who knows? But ultimately, it feels like this summer there was a bit of a handbrake on the momentum we had building this team. But the other question then gets thrown to Arteta. Were you given funds? Were you given resources? Edu, were you put in front of players like Benjamin Sesko and others? And did you struggle to get that over the line? Over the years, could we have got a Kudus, an Isak, a Paqueta, a Guimaraes, players that we know we've been linked with, a Vlahovic? And did the Cronkies deny the funds? Did Arteta decide he didn't want that player, which would be concerning? Or did Edu not get that deal done? But somewhere, one of those things has basically happened. And it's cost us what I've just mentioned, 4 really, really good players that would have had a major impact in this team. 4 players that we need. We need an 8. Well, I've listed 2 there in Paqueta and Guimaraes. And we need forwards. And Kudus and Isak, quite frankly, we need both of them. We could have had them for a combined 100 million. They are now 100 million pound players each. And that's the situation we're in. So who's the next Isak? Who's the next Kudus? Maybe that's what we need to do. But I mean, I don't know those names. Share them if you want. Jay says, sorry, but the gaps in the squad are on him. And this is, I think, what a lot of Arsenal fans are going to throw back him, and rightly so. Lopsided investment on the defence. Should have spread it across the squad. Zinchenko, Timber, Calafiori, Kivior over 12 minutes. Let's go on Transfermarkt and see all Arsenal transfers. Let's do it. And I'll share my screen in a sec when I've got it in front of me. But thanks for the super chats, people. Just to remind ourselves of the business that we've done. Okay. Share this tab. Can you see this? You can see this, although it's doing weird things. Okay, no, we're in. Fine. It's having a problem. It's set. No, what's going on? Right, let's get rid of this. Stop sharing. Okay. Now let's share again. Sorry, everyone. Share screen. I've been rambling for 25 minutes. I haven't even gotten to the best part of the press conference yet. All right, you can see this, okay? Calafiori came in. I don't know what's going on. Calafiori, left back sign. There's one. What is happening? This isn't going to work, people. Let's leave it. Let's just stop sharing. I'm going to read them out. Calafiori is 1. Timber is 2. Zinchenko is 3. Kivior is 4. Tomiyasu's 5. Oh, Cedric was a free transfer. All right. There's 5 players there he's invested on who he can play at left back. Having inherited Kieran Tierney, now Lewis Skelly's come through. Who else have we got? I mean, there's your 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that was slightly pointless, that. But I mean, that's the. I mean, a lot of money has gone. I mean, that's just on left backs. Obviously, Gabriel he brought in. Yeah, it was an overfunded position for sure, the defense. And yet, I think we're still here, sort of debating who our best left back is after all that. Right. I've wasted so much time. Let me go on to what he said, what Charles Watts asked him. Now, I want to find the exact quote. Again, let's share. Right, you can see this, yeah? Right, let me find. I think if I type calendar year. Right, here we go. And this is where they're being a little bit cheeky on the website, because here, on if our form in front of goal is a cause for concern, Charles Watts didn't word it this way. I think this was his question, because the reply from Arteta was, we're the team that has scored the most goals in the calendar year in the Premier League, so that can't be a problem. On if our form in front of goal has been a cause for concern. This isn't how Charles Watts framed the question. He didn't just go, look, has our form in front of goal been a cause of concern for you? He came with data. And I'm paraphrasing, I might be getting some of it wrong. But he basically said something like, we've got I think, something like in 43% of games, we've only scored 1 goal. A lot of those games we didn't win. He then asked him after about Martin Odegaard's form in front of goal and what's going on with him. But he basically said, he referred back to a quote that Mikel Arteta, said earlier about the smaller sample size basically suggests that there might be a problem, but the wider sample size that you got to look at calendar years and all that would suggest that, we haven't got a problem. And his answer tells you that. He goes, we're the team that has scored the most goals in the calendar year in the Premier League, so that can't be a problem. And I think basically Charles's question was like, he said, again, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, it's not a small sample size. Like, there's plenty of games in this season where we've clearly had a problem in front of goal. Like, that's not really that small a sample size. And he came with data. And I think Arteta, coming back with that, again, I put everything through the lens of the question that I asked. Is Arteta calling for signings? Were there shots fired here at either Edu or the transfer committee or the ownership for the lack of funds or whatever? Or was it a rallying call to the people above? Let's get moving. And when I hear this kind of answer, we're the team that scored the most goals in the calendar year in the Premier League, that tells me he's not really sticking it on them, because he could have gone, yeah, this is something that we've done, of course, really, really well across most of 2024, but it's a problem now. But he's saying it can't be a problem. So for everything I've said here, and I've posed the question, is he calling for signings? Were there shots fired? That's the kind of answer that tells me that that's where you can apply some real pressure. Charles Watts came in with a good question, and ultimately you kind of just went, no, it's not a problem. Is he just defending, what his players and trying to inject confidence into them? Maybe. Is he trying to send messages to Jesus and Havertz? You are the guys. Come on, step up for me. But I don't. Yeah, I wasn't that happy with that answer. It was a really good question, and it felt like, to say it can't be a problem. Arsenal fans are looking at it going, Mikel, please, like, we're not stupid. We can see with our eyes that our attack looks like it's run of ideas, that we can't, access central areas very well, that we have sort of 2 or 3 kind of modes of attack, which is set pieces, getting the ball out wide to our wingers, hoping they do something, and otherwise an odd moment of chaos, but that's kind of it. Like when was the last time you saw a through ball? The only times when Newcastle gave us a bit of space and Tross up at Martinelli and behind, how often do we get that chance in a team? Go watch. I shared it on Twitter. Go watch the Different Knocks video. That's Alex from the Different Knock. His video on what Arsenal can steal in terms of tactics from Liverpool, and he breaks it down so well. He's like, look at the transition. Look at the moments we're high up the pitch. We're one of the best teams when it comes to pressing, winning the ball high up the pitch, and we're one of the worst for doing anything with it. So when you see that, the data's there, we can see with our eyes, we're feeling frustration as fans because we are still second in the league, because a miracle could happen at St James's Park, because we are still in the FA Cup. We're actually doing well in the Champions League. There's all plenty of reasons to be positive about this team, but where fans are getting really frustrated is that it's the same problems, that where we are falling short is the same stuff we knew we needed addressing a year or two ago, minimum, really. Playing the same kind of football that has that's been stifled by other teams before, and that's where the frustration is. So I take issue with this kind of comment, if I'm honest, that it can't be a problem. But it was a good question from Charles Watts when he came with the data and said, look, let me take you back to what you just said, because I'm not sure it's a smaller sample size as you think. I'll sort of paraphrasing this. I hope I haven't misquoted anything genuinely, but it's all there on Haters TV. Go watch the press conference. I encourage you to watch it rather than just read it like this, because this makes it seem like a nice, pleasant question. And it was an unpleasant question, obviously. It was definitely a question that, like, put it on Arteta a little bit more in terms of going, I'm not sure you're being quite as fair about our lack of problems in front of goal as you're making out. And let me bring some data to prove it. All right, everyone, we're going to leave it there. I've gone through the super chats. Thank you for all your comments. Super appreciate it. There was something. Yeah, I think, guys, anyone spamming comments, I've just seen this now. Anyone spamming comments or anything, like, nothing wrong with you. You're saying Arteta out, cool. That's how you feel. That's absolutely fine. But anyone kind of spamming comments or whatever, like, it's just, let's have good conversations in the chat, basically, about what's being discussed. But we'll leave it there, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this. And let me know in the comments what you think. Is he calling for new signings? Was he firing shots? I think there's some comments in there that make you think that he is looking for some help. There's others that make you think he's not. He's actually a lot happier with the attacking situation than we are, and that's a cause for concern if it is. But we have difference of opinions. Have a nice Saturday, people. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe. Everyone, go check out Forward on Football as well. Thank you for tuning in, mate. Go subscribe to Turkish, of course. I'm sure you all are, but definitely go ahead and do that, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, we'll see you very soon. Enjoy your Saturday. Let's hope Arsenal win tomorrow. Catch you in a bit.